It was chilly
But,
yesterday morning here. Got down to almost 40.
ooh,
Yeah, late April. That's kind of wild.
yeah. Closing that. Don't need this. Okay.
I think we're at noon now. It's maybe a minute or two.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Okay, got that. Some of these windows. Let me close some other windows. It's slowing down my internet.
No
Hold on.
worries. Everyone, if you're just coming in, we're going to give it about a minute to let others filter in as they get online here. And Christy, just tell me when to go next slide when you start.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that looks good. Okay, let's still give it another few seconds. We're letting people get logged in. We had quite a few registrants, but not seeing everyone logged in yet. Well, I'm sure some people are going to miss, but don't see any more. Okay. Oh, yeah, I see the screen now. Okay. We can go ahead and get started. This will be kind of a fun one today. We're not doing like demo type of setup. We really just want to do a recap about what's been going on in the US, especially with the data that we're seeing in WX Horizon using our sensors and also just the virtual forecast points that are also built with our proprietary forecast model into those. Um, oh yeah, go ahead and hit
Sorry.
next. Here we are. This is I'm Christy with been with Visla almost 2 years now. X Weather Roads, so primarily with WX Horizon and the Roadcast. I'm sorry, the cast sensors. And Eric is here as well. He
Hi,
has
everyone.
a meteorologist background, so he will do a lot of the recap. But we're just going to go over some screenshots and snippets of things that we've seen within WX Horizon. So here's the agenda today. I'll go first, then Eric will go, and so on. So we're going to do expectations, temperatures, the precipitation and snowfall that we actually saw in various areas in the U.S. A look into the future, but it's kind of a little early for that. But you'll see that in the slides. We'll go over that, and we'll do a quick Q&A, and we can also think of that section as comments if there's not really any questions, but you just want to input, give your input on how the winter was for you. Definitely put something in the comments, and we'll go over those. Next slide. Here's just a quick snapshot of Dallas, or my area that I'm in. So that's downtown Dallas. That's Garland. That's earlier this year. It was in January. So this is how we kind of want to open up the webinar. Did you even see a winter? So we typically here in Texas, or in Dallas also, get ice. And whenever we get snow, it'll be for a little bit, but the temperatures do drop pretty low where the snow will stick or turn into ice once it's on the pavement. So it sticks for about 3 days maybe, and that's what these pictures are. And then by the end of the week, it's all gone. The sun's out again. So if you've seen anything like this in your area, definitely let us know. Share your pictures with us at any point. But again, that's downtown Dallas. That was, I'm going to say, mid-January.
So
Um,
this was it, Christy, right? This was the extent
yeah,
of the winter there in
yes,
Dallas. Yeah.
yes. And
I had
as you
asked,
talked about that,
go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'd asked Christy to share pictures of Dallas because in Charleston we didn't have any snow. That's typical though. So I would just be sharing pictures of wet ground or sunshine.
Yep. Um, at, we are, or the Dallas area or Texas in general, is pretty well known for the big freeze that we had a couple years ago. Uh, for pretty much the whole state, and that stuck around for a long time. And that is usually around the time it's February, anytime in February that we get those kinds of temperatures, or any weather event like this. This time it was in January, and we didn't get anything like this in February, March, and so on. So you can move on to the next slide. Actually, this is, yeah, the point where Eric will take over from here. We're going to go over a lot of the things you saw this winter season um, across the U.S.
Yeah, so thank you, Christy. These were generally the expectations. If you were on our call back during the fall, we did a preview of what to expect for this coming or for the past winter season. Now, we don't officially release a forecast or launch a forecast. This is just general expectations based on what I was seeing personally. So we were going into an El Nino year, a strong El Nino winter, and this is the typical setup for what you would see during a strong El Nino type year. Um, and this was kind of the general prediction of what to expect. And overall, it verified pretty well. There's a couple spots, especially on the warmer side, obviously. There's a couple spots where it missed a little bit. In the southeast, it was wetter. It was very wet. I think like here in Charleston, we had one of our wettest winters on record. But it wasn't that cool. It was cooler than other parts of the country, but it wasn't cooler than normal. And then in the Northeast, you had the big snow potential with nor'easters typically following that southern storm track. Those didn't really verify all that well. There were a few that impacted interior parts of New England, but as far as the large coastal cities, didn't really see a major northeaster this winter, but everything else verified pretty well. So looking at the temperatures, and this is the actual anomalies that we saw. So November through March, you can see pretty warm overall. There was some cooler air that was spilling into the country in January, especially in the center part of the country. But overall, it was a very, very warm winter. And if you were on that coffee chat that we did back before the winter started, I had mentioned the top year that I was looking at to be most similar to this year was the winter of 2015, 2016. And these were the verifications for each month during that winter season. So you could see pretty similar, especially December was very, very warm overall, March the same, even February. And January is where we had a little bit of a cool break in both of those winter seasons. So it followed along pretty closely. Now each year is different, but it followed along pretty closely with that winter in 2015, 2016. This winter was record setting. Looking at the image to the left, this is from NOAA. Those are temperature departures from average. So if you look up there in Minnesota, Wisconsin, the Dakotas, even parts of northern Michigan, 10 plus degrees above normal for the entire winter season, which is just insane. The statewide average temperature ranks down there on the bottom right shows that North Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire all had their warmest winters on record. And all the rest of the states had a very warm winter as well. So overall, winter was very, very warm. In fact, it was record setting. Precipitation was above normal pretty much everywhere. Again, not uncommon for a strong El Nino with that moisture flowing in from the Pacific. So there were a few areas that were a little bit drier, but overall we had above normal precipitation across most of the country. And then snowfall. So looking at snowfall broken down by each month, you got November through March here. Limited snowfall, especially when you get it on a month by month basis. So November, we actually saw a little bit above average snowfall in parts of the Midwest and up into the Northeast. December was below average in most areas. January is when we had that flip, and that's kind of when, going back to that conversation early in the fall or back in the fall before the winter, I thought that flip could occur in January or February. We saw a lot more snow across a lot of the country in January, and then February flipped back to the other side. It went very, very warm, and we saw limited snow anomalies there. So again, comparing to that 2015, 2016 winter, you can see a lot of similarities between the months, like November and December. December in 2015 had a lot more snow out west, but overall they align pretty closely with each other. The other interesting story was the Great Lakes ice cover. This was the latest update as of, I think, early March, but nothing had really changed since then. Great Lakes ice cover was at a record low. There wasn't a whole lot of ice coverage on the lakes. The historical average is that red line. This year is the black line down at the bottom. And because of that, we were actually seeing lake effect snow well into the winter season, where usually that lake effect snow machine would shut off in January. That continued as long as there was cold air in place. That continued through January, February, and even into March and April. So we did see some additional lake effect snow just because the lakes were not frozen over really in any capacity this winter season. I showed this one last time we did this, but it's always interesting to see this. The reason why this is on the eastern U.S. is where I pull this from, the National Weather Service Eastern region. They're the only ones that seem to do this, so that's the data that I have. But these are the snowfall totals compared to average in all of the locations that they monitor across the eastern U.S. And highlighted here are locations that actually saw more snowfall this year than they did last year. So even though the winter was extremely warm, record-setting across a lot of areas, you see about half these cities on this list, maybe a little more than half, had more snowfall than they did last year, especially the big cities on the East Coast. Like you see New York City had about a foot of snow, depending on where you were. DC had about a foot of snow. Baltimore, same thing. Philly. All of these locations last year had less than an inch of snow. So even though it was really, really warm, they had about a foot more snow this season than they did last season, though it was still way below average. New York City, for example, sees about 2 feet of snow on average for any given winter. So I thought that was just pretty interesting that because the snow or the winter last year was probably one of the least snowiest winters on record for a lot of areas. This winter, it was much more snowy, even with the warm conditions. Except for the southeast, that's all on the left-hand side there. The southeast pretty much got shut out again. No real measurable snow in most areas. This was the snowfall analysis done by NOAA. So you can see a lot of areas where there was a snow drought, for lack of a better term, even up into Minnesota. So anything below that yellow color, that's less than a foot of snow. And you see pockets in North Dakota and Minnesota that had less than a foot of snow, which is kind of unheard of for a winter season, especially coming off of last winter where they set records in cities like Minneapolis for the amount of snow that they had. Also in the Ohio Valley, it was a very light season for snowfall. Parts of the South saw snow. Memphis had a couple big storms, same with Nashville. So I think they actually had a surplus of snow this season, but for the most part, most areas saw below normal snowfall. And even out west, the mountains, they get hammered with snow all the time. So that's why you see the bright colors there. But even out west, I think the snow was below normal compared to what they usually see. So going into next season, obviously way too early to make a prediction. However, some of the models are indicating that we will likely be moving into more of a La Nina getting into next winter rather than an El Nino. So if you love snow, that's a good scenario and a potentially good setup, depending on where you are, to get more snow for next winter season. If you don't want snow, then this is probably not so great news. So typically in a La Nina pattern, you have the jet stream digging into the northern U.S., like you can see here, bringing that cold Canadian air down into the northern plains, parts of the Midwest, and even up to the East Coast. So again, it's really early. Things could change between now and then. We will do another one of these ahead of next winter season. But right now, La Nina is looking like it will be king next winter, and that could bring more snowfall for many of you on this call. Unless you live in the Southeast, and then it's not good news because you're probably not going to get any snow again. So with that, I'm going to go into, like Christy said, we're not going to jump into the user interface or anything, but we wanted to show you some cool examples we saw from WX Horizon and the cast sensors this past winter season. Just some things we noticed as we were monitoring it, as our customers were using it. So we thought it'd be interesting to share some of these stories. Okay, Christy, I'll go to the next slide and you can take it away.
Yeah. I'll touch back on that slide in a bit. It's the one that we just moved from. It's
I'll
a
go back.
quick, yeah, it's just a quick snapshot of WX Horizon, but a premium version. And we're actually going to go pretty in depth, do a deep dive on the next session. So just keep this visual in your head. But yeah, you can go to the next one. Okay, this is a pretty cool slide from this was on Twitter, but it is a picture from a camera of the Ohio DOT. And what you're seeing in the picture on the left is it is just one road there. I mean, two roads, but main road. And on the overpass, you can see clearly there's snow on the road, likely a little bit of ice, but it clears up as you go down the road. So what you're seeing on the right slide is this isn't a reading exactly on this bridge, but how it would work. Because it's an overpass, of course, it's going to stay in a state of the freezing state longer because of the it doesn't have the warmth of the ground underneath it like the rest of the road. So you can see on the orange colored circles, those are sensors, but it's showing orange because the temperature is about 32 degrees or higher, so it's warmer. That would be a representation of the clear road there. And then on the overpass itself, that's where we have the little pop-up, it's in blue. We're saying that the temperature would be up to 25 degrees, so it's freezing. And that they're right next to each other. So you can tell, or you can take from that how different it can be, not just from one area of your community to the next. It can be on the same roads that it's different. So that's a good indicator of how the sensors could help you out and fill in that gap there. Move to the next slide. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a screenshot. Oh, where's there a picture on here?
Yeah, sorry, I have it all
Okay.
animated. So.
Oh, that's yeah. So what you're going to see here first. This is a reading from WX Horizon using our virtual forecast points, and we did a whole webinar about these as well. This is not a sensor in the ground in the area, and the city of Des Moines in Iowa is not currently using these sensors, but we have virtual forecast points in the area that still use our forecasting model and that data built into them, and you're seeing the dates here. It's forecast from January 28th and then January 28th is the reading of what's going on. The 29th is the forecasted version. So you can see a drop in that we're actually reading the drops in temperature there, the surface temperature, the air temperature, dew point, the grip dropping, all of that. And what you're going to see in the pictures. So here's the first one. And we got it from somebody that we're following on. Is this on LinkedIn or is this Twitter? Sorry.
It's Twitter. Excuse me. He's a meteorologist in the Des Moines area. Mm-hmm.
And so you can see, based here on the January 29th, what their roads look like. That's what the picture that he's posting is what they're providing. But we can actually see it from within WX Horizon that we forecasted pretty closely to what they're seeing on January 29th with the frost and the ice on the road. And then the next picture, the 30th, you see a drop again. It's that purple. Is that purple line as pops up for the 30th, that we're also matching it up there as well. So the same dates and what they're actually seeing on the road is what WX Horizon captured with those virtual forecast points. So if you're not ready for sensors, virtual forecast points will still be a good option for you to get that accurate data on what's going on in your community. Move to the next slide. And here's another cool visual that you can get from within WX Horizon. So this is everything in blue is the lake effect snow moving in to this area. Um, the top two sensor circles are only about 10 to 20 miles away from the bottom two circles that are not in any blue. So you can see the temperature difference there already with the sensors and what's going on with the color coding. It's whether it's snow or ice that's already captured on the roads there, and how there's nothing yet on the two below. So just a cool thing to keep in mind of how the temperature and everything can be different in such close proximity. Move on to the
Yeah, and
next.
I'll just add to
Oh yeah.
this one, Christy, too, real quick. So, like, between the two, the 31.5 and the 41.4, I mean, that's a 10-degree difference in road temperature in a very small distance. It might be 10 miles, maybe. It might not even be 10 miles.
Mhm.
And what they kind of were able to do with this is they can target those areas up north or target that area that's a little bit cooler. And even though the snow is moving into the areas down south, they know they have time and they can, redirect the resources where they need to be based on the current road temperatures. So, yeah, it was just a really cool example because of the big differences in road temperature across a very small distance while there is precipitation.
Okay, so we said it was kind of going to be a short one today. We really just wanted to do a recap of what was going on in the U.S. And of course, you can let us know what's going on in your area. If you didn't get too much action like you saw on the map, but still send us whatever your recap is. We'd love to see it. Um, I don't see any questions or comments in the chat nor the Q&A, but please feel free to type something in if you joined late or anything. Just clicking through them again. Um, do want to show you or go over, yeah, that little picture that you're seeing there with the solar eclipse. We did do a couple of recap videos for those as well as what we saw in WX Horizon and just in general with the road temperatures. Take a look at our YouTube channel. You can see it linked there at Visla _X weather. Subscribe to it. We post a lot of cool videos like that um, to show what we're seeing in the system and globally, actually. So the eclipse one was pretty cool to see the data over time as it's happening, how it went from one temperature to the other, a warm temperature to cold, and then back to warm again. We don't have the date yet for the next webinar, but I mentioned a bit ago that we are going to look at WX Horizon Premium. It's just got some additional more detailed features for your actual road networks. So look for that email. We'll send an invite. We'll put a post on LinkedIn. But you definitely want to join for that one for some of the enhanced features. Here's our contact information, Eric and mine, for email or give us a call, whatever works better for you. You can also just go to the ViceLex Weather website and request a demo or a phone call from there. But I think I'm just looking through the chat and Q&A again. I don't see anything in there. I think that's all we have for you today.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good, everyone. Appreciate you joining today. And like Christy said, like even if you just have any questions about the recap of the winter, feel free to email either of us or give us a call. We're happy to talk about it. And then, yeah, we hope to see you in the next section in May.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.